I'm very excited about season 4 because I think it's our finest.
The protagonists are getting older, the decades are changing, the challenges that face them are changing. Other characters come into the show that have an equal primacy and importance.
2 women running the shop. That's the last thing this country needs.
Perhaps that's precisely what this country needs.
We've got 2 box office characters, Margaret Thatcher and Lady Diana Spencer.
The storylines are, many and fascinating.
Love, approval, it's all any of us want from you.
The royal family are like icons that we very rarely see behind closed doors, and Peter's really good at kind of smashing right through those doors.
Diana, in time, will give up her fight and bend.
And if she doesn't bend, what then? She will break.
The world is changing rapidly, but these people aren't changing at all. And the kind of pressure cooker of that is really, for me, what season 4 is about.
If this country really is to turn the corner, then I say it needs to change fundamentally. Top to bottom.
The more it comes to modern day, the more we're dealing with people's emotions of people that are around, and I find that a bit difficult.
It's an incredibly formidable time in our political history. Britain is troubled, a divided country. It was a time of tremendous pressure.
My responsibility is to put sentimentality to one side and look after this country's interest with the perspective of a cold balance sheet.
The gift of this whole job was Peter's writing. There was so many facets and so many colours to the royal family. It's basically never boring.
Darwin had nothing on you lot. Shame on all of you.
Margaret.
No.
This show is so special because it goes, no, they have a beating heart. Like, look at them.
The Queen is our protagonist. You stray too far from her at your peril, and so you constantly have to bring it back to the crown, because that will then inform the stories we're telling.
Now that the Queen is settled in her reign, I can definitely feel the show is becoming more of an ensemble piece. And the heir, Prince Charles, Prince of Wales, he becomes a really important character because he's next.
My dear Charles, a person earns his title with his ability to lead and inspire. Elusive virtues to which you must reach and rise. And it grieves me to say that you are not working hard enough to reach and to rise.
Josh, who plays Prince Charles, he really blossoms in this season, and there's some fantastic scenes for him with Diana and with Camilla and with his mother.
If you have a complaint about not being loved or appreciated in this marriage, I suggest you take it up with the people who arranged it.
For me, it's like remains a dream come true, really. Looking down at the call sheet every day and you see Olivia Colman, Helena Bonham Carter, Tobias Menzies, Charles Dance. Particularly for young actors like myself and Emma and Erin and Emerald, we're all sort of just kind of soaking in like sponges all this information. When I took the job, took this role, it was clear to me that in Series 3 there was a kind of lost child who was desperate for the affection of his parents and desperate to be seen and heard. And I guess the exciting thing was taking that sort of lost boy and, growing him into a man and all the kind of difficulties that brings.
Royal Highness.
I'm sorry, we haven't met.
We have. I was in costume at the time.
The Mad Tree.
Diana.
Yes.
Season 4 is about one of the greatest love stories of the 21st century.
It's the story of Charles meeting Princess Diana and the innocent start to a relationship, but also how tragically it ended and indeed how unhappy they were throughout it.
After a selection process that involved half of Britain, you somehow stumbled on the perfect one in age, looks, and breeding. Or have you managed to find fault even in perfection?
No. She is undeniably gorgeous. I just wish I'd had more time.
When he marries Diana, it triggers all these questions that Charles has to ask about love and marriage. It might be the right thing to do for the country or for unity and for the royal family, but is that the right thing for him, or is that the right thing for her?
I see you're going to bring a deep and lasting joy to the nation, and if I may say, you both look very much in love.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Whatever in love means.
Margaret sort of champions them. The script does develop. It's very different from the early scripts you get, like at that read-through and by the time you actually shoot. I said, I'm not going to be part of this. Look what they did to me. It's funny how you so champion your character. And this is what? He said, well, Townsend, you Bert, don't you remember season 1? They meddled with that marriage. How, are they ever going to learn? And then, true, it materialised into a whole scene.
How many times can this family make the same mistake? Forbidding marriages should be allowed. Forcing others that shouldn't. Paying the consequences each time.
You have these two things running in parallel, which is the mounting tragedy, basically, and the failure of her marriage, and also her growth in popularity and celebrity in the world, and also her own growth and awareness of herself.
She becomes the love of a nation. She's the spotlight, and the Charles kind of realizing that he's lost his way. She is now the leading role in this marriage.
You hurt Camilla. Why would I care about her? Because I care about her!
Camilla is this cloud that hangs over them. Even if she's not physically there, they're both aware of her. It's such an interesting dynamic, and that kind of encapsulates the whole thing, which is that there's a constant 3 going on.
If you put me in a popularity contest against her, I will lose. Someone who looks like me has no place in a fairy tale. That's all people want, is a fairy tale.
That was challenging, to try and be truthful to the period of time where there was hope, right? There wasn't hope for long, but there was a period of hope. And there are also some really gorgeous moments where they really were connected, and you suddenly realised what an amazing A-team they could have been.
Where do I fit in?
You fit in because you're my wife. And because I love you.
Princess Diana was probably one of the most important casting decisions I've been part of.
The whole process for me being cast was about 6 to 8 months long. It was quite long and probably one of the most stressful 8 months of my life.
What's extraordinary is that Emma has had a very similar trajectory as an actor and as a person to what Diana's going through. So she has gone from complete obscurity, not a huge amount of experience, to suddenly playing one of the most famous women in the world.
I think the thing that dawned on me was how young Diana was when it all happened. I mean, she got married at 19. Not only getting married, but getting married into the royal family. And then I think she had William a year later. It baffles me that anyone was surprised that she struggled.
Since I've joined this family, it's not been easy. I've been given no help, no support, just thrown in the deep end, and I think that people out there can sense that I've suffered. You've seen how the crowds responded to me in Australia. Here too. And instead of resenting me for it...
I assure you, no one resents you.
Charles resents me. Anne resents me. And is it possible that you resent me too?
She just really became her. It was spooky to sit in front of her. It's like looking at the real thing. It was such a beautiful performance. There's nuanced and there's darkness, and those things are really fun to play. And she does it beautifully.
it's quite a costume.
Fashion is such an integral part of Diana's journey. She goes from being a very normal girl with, a very average, I think, taste in clothes.
This is the slightly more innocent Diana.
Your Royal Highness.
Who would wear bright woolen, almost home-knitted jumpers.
And then you've got her journey. She's pulled into the royal world and an increasingly toxic marriage.
And then, you know, by the end you leave her and she's really found her voice in her clothing.
We were trying to do this beauty makeup, so she would have her kind of armour, she would have her strong lip, she'd have a blue eyeliner and loads of mascara, but a kind of pallor as well, because it was trying to contrast this kind of tailspin she was in with also her being a kind of media icon. So we would sometimes put we'd actually use red on the inside and a sort of bruised tone in combination. So we were always trying to do fragility and strength.
This is the Diana that's becoming the Versace Diana, the fashion icon, the fashion goddess.
And that comes across in such a big way because I think she changed kind of the face of fashion.
What's interesting about her, I think, is your first image of her and your final image. When I read that the first time we see her, what she was going to have to look like, that was so exciting. We slightly dramatised it, what she wears for that final shot with the big photograph. Probably isn't necessarily what she'd have worn, but we thought we'd just do it. This is like glamour and a kind of up you look, really, you know. So I loved that. I loved doing that.
I remember when we actually filmed the scene where I used the wedding dress, no one had ever seen me in the dress before. And I remember these doors then opened, and I just remember this hush descending over everyone.
It was like a chill going through the room, and everyone just went silent. I mean, I guess that image itself is so powerful that to see that yourself in that moment just gave everyone pause.
You know, I'm standing there in her dress, and it was momentous, and I think everyone felt like there was a presence in the room. And I think it was the kind of weight of responsibility and acknowledgement of what we were doing.
Emma, do you want a banana or something?
No, not in the dress.
Sorry,
Sue, your heart rate must have gone through. Oh. Love some Marmite toast, though. Yeah. Chocolate spread. Yeah.
The wedding dress, that took 14 weeks.
The fittings took a long time. Remember the first one, I kind of thought, should my mum be here? I was like, this is like a wedding dress fitting. This is mad.
Oh, amazing. I remember watching the wedding and thinking, ooh, that's a very big dress.
You think, oh my golly, what do I remember? What do you think about? The sleeves, the bigness of that, and that huge, long, great train. That's what I have to achieve. And of course, it was the workroom that did all the work. It was Sue and her team. It was weirdly exciting.
How do we do a wedding without showing the wedding? Because everyone's seen the wedding. They've all seen it on television. They all know what that is. And then we found the Archbishop's voice from the archive talking about a fairy tale, talking about a marriage, and we sort of used that underneath all this, and it's incredibly moving. It's really powerful.
There was something extraordinary about bringing an actress of the scale and weight and presence as Gillian Anderson and bringing her into contact with Olivia Colman's Queen.
I was very nervous, and particularly given, you know, a certain pressure that one feels when one is playing a real character, and certainly someone that divides people as much as Margaret Thatcher, but because it involved different voice, different walk, different gestures, it felt like a big deal.
A dangerous game, I think, to make enemies left, right, and centre.
Not if one is comfortable with having enemies.
Are you?
Oh, yes.
I think this is probably one of the hardest roles she's done. And I know she has spent months and months and months trying to scrape underneath the surface of Margaret Thatcher.
You could just see her becoming that person, the voice and the movements and the walk and the The way she held her handbag, the way she sat, the way she did those incredibly low, sort of ironic curtsies. She just did it so beautifully and brilliantly. I can't picture anyone else doing it.
Your Majesty.
Prime Minister?
I think we have enough respect for one another personally to ask ourselves some of the bigger questions, woman to woman. We are the same age after all.
Really?
Just 6 months between us.
Oh? And who is the senior?
I am, ma'am. Her physicality is a big part of her and what we remember of her. Whether it's her voice or her hair or her mannerisms or her stridency. And so it feels essential to me to try and get as much right as you can. She was always incredibly well put together and huge attention to detail. And that detail was absolutely carried out to a T by the team.
Whether you like her politics, no. Put all that to one side, she was quite phenomenal. Extraordinary outfits, hugely feminine.
There is a definite trajectory that happens in her clothes.
This was classic Thatcher. Previously, we've seen her with the Queen, quite exposed. So now it's a different story. She wants to declare war.
And I say, we will not survive not going to war.
So all weakness is gone. Shoulders are still quite narrow. That wide look will come in later episodes. Both she and the Queen had Lorna bags. Hers is slightly bigger, more like a briefcase. We've gone for this very patriotic red, white and blue. This was a militaristic moment.
When we first did the camera test, there were things that we realised just weren't right.
The difficult thing was that Thatcher's hair colour changed from day to day. She was rinsing she was colouring it and it would fade. So it was really difficult to decide on a colour, and we sort of realised that people have different memories of the colour of her hair. We effectively needed to destroy the wig to make it right. So we set upon a process of kind of over-processing it and thinning it out so that it had that kind of frothy halo. So it was a big, long process with lots and lots of backwards and forwards and tweaking, because it's a very specific texture and look.
We were playing around with teeth. Everything that we tried just felt like it was too much. I mean, they went ahead and had this guy build this set of teeth that I would wear. I needed to figure out how to hold my mouth differently, inclusive of a different kind of teeth in my mouth.
Not that I noticed.
For me, I always come back to the silhouette and the shape, because if they have that recognisable silhouette and you manage to get the outline, then kind of whatever happens in the outline is, if the actor does that bit.
Gillian really worked to find the essence of Margaret Thatcher, and I think she's done an amazing job. A mix of never being frightened to be privately vulnerable as Margaret Thatcher and publicly formidable.
My goal is to change this country from being dependent to self-reliant, and I think in that I am succeeding.
What I love about all those scenes in the audience room is, of course, no one ever knows what happened in the audience room. So we can make up what we want and we can draw conclusions.
I was under the impression that there was an unbreakable code of silence between Sovereign and First Minister.
The friction that's written is so enjoyable to play. It was just really fun to have those sort of horrible moments with with brilliant Gillian.
I am obliged to support my prime ministers on any position they take, even yours.
For me, that first audience was a scene where two women who have huge amounts of respect for each other get to meet each other.
There's a choice Olivia makes in the scene just before she meets Thatcher for the first time that's so moving. It's just this tiny indication, and you understand from that one thing she does how excited she is about this woman coming in.
Congratulations, Prime Minister.
Thank you, Ma'am.
One of the things the director was interested in was mirroring. When two people are quite alike. They mirror each other in their sort of the way they carry themselves. So when you look at that scene, they're both sitting very similarly. They've both got the bags by the same place. Every frame sort of feels like it's a mirror of one another. And so that's feeding into that idea that these two women are the same.
Olivia is the biggest joy to work with. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to keep my focus because she's such a goofball. And I can be too, but she's really good at snapping too, and just in the split second getting serious and getting into the scene. The pleasure of that and respecting somebody and somebody's work and their body of work, and walking into a room and getting to experience that and to play with that, and is such a gift.
In season 4, we find the Queen, I think, at a particular stage in history where her children are grown up, but she's still concerned about them.
She, I think, is more understanding about, sort of human frailty, within her own family. But sort of the crown is still the most important thing.
Much more Olivia has come into the Queen this season and brought a bit more of the warmth out. She is the matriarch on camera and she is the matriarch on set. People instantly feel at ease around her.
It's kind of intimidating. She doesn't seem to have to do any work. It just seems to pours out of her. I've learned a lot from her. Our working together was characterised by not a huge amount of talking around it or about it. We kind of let it happen sort of a bit more instinctively than that, and sort of in front of a camera. Right, everyone, gloves on. It felt good, actually, and I feel like it means that it keeps it quite fresh.
Our children lost. What does that say about us as parents?
And she can be chatty and fun and silly and supportive and great, and then she can flick on the Queen and she's cold and and distant and troubled, and it's a real talent.
What does one have to do to get some kindness in this family?
People love this show for its accuracy, its storytelling and its humanity and the emotional side of it, but also the memories and the nostalgia. The first day I started, I was introduced to the research department, people who you could ask anything to.
The research team are the nucleus of The Crown. I think Peter would agree that when he sits and stares at a blank piece of paper on that day one of season 4, what do I write? He also looks down to the left and down to the right, and there are pages and pages and pages of in-depth research by this amazing team.
I'm now writing season 5 on a daily basis. I had 2 Zoom calls with the research team this morning. I'm extremely hand in glove with them.
There's a lot to learn, a lot to get right.
What they were brilliant about was getting into the kind of emotional nitty-gritty of things that had been said, putting stories together, building a biography of someone that just made them much more complete, and that would give the actors coming into those roles something to really hold on to.
You sort of have to look wherever you could think you might be able to find something, and it can be in a very odd place.
With our 7th anniversary coming up, well, I've had some ideas.
We recreate a very personal gift that Diana gave Charles, in which she sings a song from Phantom of the Opera. Well, she performs a song from Phantom of the Opera, I should say, because we don't know if she sang, we don't know if she mimed, we don't know if she danced. So from that information, or that lack of information, we then have to try to speak to people who might be able to answer the question, was Diana a competent singer? Did she enjoy singing in front of people? If not, then it's more likely she mimed it. So we're trying to hunt down these answers in very kind of obtuse ways, given it's a private moment that not many people saw.
There are certain things which are irrefutably factually happened, down to every department, hair, costume, makeup, they're absolutely immaculate. And then because those have gotten right, gives you license to say, and this is what possibly happened. This is the imaginative bit, the conversation or the emotional reaction.
It scares me. fills me with dread. I want something to fill it with.
There's a great sense of devotion amongst everybody that works on this show. Everybody is at the top of their game, and almost everybody that started this journey is still on the journey. I think the cast that come in feel so reassured by how stable the ship is.
If you would allow me.
We get to the studio and we get into the soundstage, and there's the cabinet room. I mean, the cabinet room is just like the cabinet room. Massive, you know, that table that's constructed in that particular way. It kind of took my breath away. The thing is just so much detail and so much care and joy.
Martin Childs and Alison Harvey are our A-team designers. I know first thing in the morning when I arrive on set and I walk into one of their rooms that they have set decorated and set designed, I have to it's just wow. Every time it's complete wow.
My favourite story about Martin, it's a little one. When we found Princess Margaret's home in Mystique, and it was brilliant, it was great. And I said to him, look, architecturally, in her home, there was a kind of sunburst across her doorway. It's quite famous, she's often photographed in front of me. He said, oh no, that's a great detail. Let me think about that. Went away, came back half an hour later, and he said, I'm building you a pool house. So suddenly, I had this whole pool house being built, which meant that I could shift a huge amount of my scenes into there. I had the background of the blue that I wanted. Little things like that make an enormous difference.
It's a really nice job. I'm an actor, so I get paid to learn lines and dress up. It's great. And so you get to dress up in the best costumes, get to work with the best people, best crews. Everyone works so hard. And it was really happy.
The gift of this whole job was the mere fact that we shot it over 2 years. I've never had that luxury of living with the same character for so long. I felt tremendous sadness to say goodbye to her because she's been great company.
It was an amazing journey, so I feel pretty lucky to have been involved in it. I definitely miss him. I've found him fascinating to work on and try and understand. He's a contradictory, completely complex person. But all good things have to come to an end, and I'm excited to see what happens next.
I really do like writing about this family because it is a way of using them almost as avatars through which you can look at a dynastic story. And all the best stories are sort of family dynastic stories, and that continues to be interesting to write.
The merriest of Christmas smiles. Yes. 3, 2, 1.